Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Hello, Mick here.
What? What is that?
I feel like I need my own intro voice, like
Mick?
like pedal guys.
Who's Mick?
Mick on pedal guys. Like, hello, Mick here.
Oh, on that pedal show.
That pedals, yeah. All right, we can start again. Jeff Fischer.
Jared Brandon.
That's Jared Brandon. He is a new knob on the Guitar Knobs. We are happy to have him. I'm Todd Novak, but you guys already knew that. So welcome, Jared, to the fold.
Thank you.
I hope you are excited being a new knob.
I am super excited.
Yes, I can tell that in your voice.
When did you become a new knob?
The other day when he asked me.
Yeah. So we unfortunately had to say temporary farewell to Aaron, who has been with us since the beginning. He just started a new job, and it's going to be kind of tough for him to do this. And we're not doing this for a living. We're not doing this for our pension or anything like that. We're doing it because we love doing it. So we gave him that break, and we pulled on Jared because he has a extensive background in pickups, in electronics, and knows a heck of a lot about classic guitars. So that's pretty cool. And Jeff, he's just good color.
Yep.
See?
Good color.
Okay, so let's just get to it.
But if I don't get that paycheck next week, I'm out. Is that coming in the mail?
Yeah, and Jay is absent today because he's absent. He's got a lot of stuff going on too. So, hey, life is busy. People are busy. Life happens, and that's the first and most important thing. Second most important thing is guitars, though. So,
I agree.
So we're here. So, anyways, Hefe.
Yes.
What is going on in your world today?
So I got this thing in the mail.
Yeah.
Which you may all find interesting. It is a string action ruler.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes.
That does all kinds of...
Oh, I have one of those.
Do you got one of those?
Yeah, I got one of those.
I got to get one.
Little metal one.
So I saw an ad on Facebook from, I think it was Axe Junction.
Oh, you get a free one?
No.
Oh.
But they're like half off, like $9.99.
$9.99? That's...
$9.99.
Man, get that on Amazon for like $2.
No, I don't know.
It's
the regular $20.
$6?
$20.
How much are they on StewMac?
$20.
Oh, well, that's StewMac, though.
Well, yeah.
See, what you do is you get a really, really expensive laser engraver, which would probably cost you $20,000, and then you get the file for that, and then you just press start.
And you can make your own.
And you can make 10,000 of those. And
man, if you knew someone that had a laser engraver.
Yeah, and 20,000 blanks.
You can lease those just like you lease a car, actually. But you make 20,000 or 50,000 of them, and then you lowball the current price. And
yeah, the thing though is the accuracy of those. I mean, those are very, very small.
We have one.
I have one. Those are very small measurements, so it's kind of it's a cool little thing to have for sure. Yeah. So all right, so you got that in the mail. And what did you do with it?
Nothing. I looked at it. I tried to figure it out. Like, what are all the things you can do with it?
Yeah, so, there's kind of a lot. I mean, it's almost like a scientific calculator. When you get it, you're like, sweet. Oh, I feel stupid.
I figured I'm always trying to measure stuff. So that would be a great little tool to have handy.
Very handy for setting up guitars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's why they made them.
Sure.
So,
and I don't have a millimeter ruler. So this also will double as a thing for my bicycle, for my mountain bike suspension.
Right.
So I can double.
That'll be handy on the mountain bike podcast.
Definitely. We'll start that next week. So many uses.
So is that it?
So many uses for it.
That it?
That is all.
You're gonna go set up a guitar or anything like that? Change out strings and set them up?
I did play with it a little bit in setting up pickup height again because I was back into
Nice.
pickup height for
That's
some
cool.
reason, which we can maybe talk about a little bit later. When
What
we
did
get
you
back
do with
into-
your pickup height? Were you lowering
Okay, we'll
the
talk about
actual
it now.
pickups?
We'll talk about it now.
Yeah,
then.
sure.
So Telecaster front pickup.
Neck pickup.
Neck pickup. Front or the front of the guitar
The front or the back.
or the back of the guitar.
Yeah. Technically,
was-
they're all front pickups.
They're both
but-
fun.
They're both fun. Was very muddy sounding, and I wasn't getting much high end out of it. And I was trying to get a cleaner high end out of this thing. So I'm like, I'm
More
just going to
quack.
just drop it to the bottom. So I took it all the way down as low as it would go,
Ooh.
which really did bring a lot more of the upper mid-range treble frequency back into the mix, which I really liked.
Resonant peak.
What does that mean?
Wait a minute. You
Tell
dropped
us
the,
about
you dropped the
resonant
actual
peak.
pickup
Yeah.
down in as low as it would go,
Well, yeah.
and you got more treble?
Yeah. Which, if you
guess
talk
that
about,
makes sense.
if you understand resonant pink, then that would explain
Or resonant peak.
resonance pink.
Jared, what is that? Can you enlighten us on resonant peak?
A little bit.
Resonant.
Resonant peak? What's it called?
Resonant peak. Your instrument has a resonant peak, but pickups themselves have a resonant peak, and it's measured within a band and everything that has to do with the structure of a pickup, the amount of winds, the magnetic flux, strength, all that kind of thing controls. Like a Fender's going to have a higher resonant peak. You're going to have more highs and treble, like you were saying, than a P90 would.
Mm-hmm.
You already know that. You already know that. Yeah.
We should have an episode about this.
In itself,
Well, so that kind of voices the pickup, right?
right? That's
So-
one of the right. There's all the elements of the pickup control the resonant peak. There's Henrys to measure. We can get into that later on in a different episode, and there's a lot of little interesting things about pickups that we never even think about. We just plug the guitar in and go.
So I guess in this idea of the theory behind what happened was my resonant peak was maybe a lower bass mid-range. And
Yeah, something's causing it to not have the resonant peak that you wanted it to. And yeah, the gap between the strings and the pickup, that changes. Everything changes resonant peak. I just said resonant peak because it just came to my head real quick.
No, that's fine. But yeah, I then went back to look up why would it change it that much? Why would it bring more high-end clarity by lowering it so far?
It seems to me, okay, now I have no knowledge when it's coming to the electronics and sound, like, the science, or the sounds of science. But if your pickup is close to your string, it's basically like having someone talking like really close in your ear, and you're
Right.
like, "Dude, back up!" It just sounds like flub.
That's
right?
pretty much the concept.
Look at that! I nailed it.
that-
Good job.
Dr.
And
Science.
in that capacity, when you're talking about, string, how close is it to the magnet? Yeah, that has a lot to do with it. A Strat pickup or a Tele pickup, that particular pickup that you're talking about, your front neck pickup.
Front pickup.
Yeah, the magnets are up and down. Well, the magnet itself is very close to the string compared to a P90. The P90 magnet is buried under the bobbin, and then it's what's powering the magnetic flow is the magnet. It's got to push that magnetic flow through metallic material.
Yeah.
And which is going to give it a lower resonant peak,
Right.
Because you're losing.
Every
you're
time
losing
someone
power.
says resonant peak, all I can think about is I feel like Pete Townsend's whispering in my ear, going, "Resonant peak, it's a put on." Anyways,
I think of a mountain or something,
yeah.
with clouds and snow cap and whatever. But
When you think of Pete Townsend,
no,
that's weird.
I think of breaking guitars when I think of that guy.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Jeff. That's very enlightening-ish.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Got right into the meat and potatoes on that, didn't we?
Yeah. So, Jared, how about you? What's going on?
What's new this week? Business for me has picked up,
So to be clear, those who don't have a background or didn't hear one of the last episodes that we had Jared on as a guest. We met him at a guitar show a couple months ago. Had him on to talk about his pickup winding, and then all of a sudden he had a lot of orders, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, this summer is usually treacherous for me. I don't know why. You can just add up everything, and it's just the way it is.
Let's attribute it to the show, though. Let's do that, just for the show's sake.
Yeah, let's do that.
Man, oh man,
Oh.
you must have gotten a lot of orders from that show.
Well, yeah, of course.
Okay, so you're busy building pickups.
Yeah, I just got confused what show you were talking about, but that's why the long, awkward pause for me. But yeah,
The
what's
show
new?
we're
What's new?
doing.
Sorry about that. So what's new in my guitar world? Yeah, I've gotten really busy over the past couple of weeks, and so that has changed my wake up time every day. Now I have to get up earlier, so I have more day. Because when the wife gets home, you don't want to be away from her all night long. So yeah, that's kind of just changing my schedule
That was very
around.
romantic.
You gotta attribute time to the family, man.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
hear you.
Whether you have 5 kids or just one wife and a dog,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much new in as far as guitar world. But
Any interesting builds come through?
today, and they're not builds, they're repairs. First time I ever worked on this kind of pickup, and I took a picture of it, and I'm not familiar with the pickup. I've seen it before. I'm not familiar with the brand, and I don't have the brand on top of my head. I wish the information guy was here, Jay, but he's not. But he can just pull it out of my brain like he does usually. But really, really different. And I'm really looking forward to digging into them after this podcast.
What's unique or
actually.
different about it?
The coil is not, when you wind a pickup, you're winding a coil onto a structure.
Yeah.
This coil has not been wound on or it has been wound on a structure, but then has been taken off that structure and wrapped in tape.
I've heard of this. I have.
Yeah.
Where did I just hear about this? I don't know if I heard it or read it about it.
Bixby does this.
Yeah.
Yes, Bixby does this, and I don't think these are.
They don't make pickups anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think so.
I get one of those once in a great while.
Yeah.
But no, these two pickups are dead. They're not reading at all. So hopefully they're just connections, because I've actually never wound a coil and then taken it off the structure upon which it was wound on. So
Yeah. What do you think is the impetus behind that? Like, what purpose would that serve?
Structure. I mean,
Well, there is no structure at that point, right?
well, the structure of the pickup itself attributes to everything about the pickup,
Right.
how it's going to sound. Like I said about Resonant P, everything about a pickup and how it's built controls how it's going to sound. Mm-hmm. How it performs. Is it going to squeal? Is it going to sound MIDI? Is it going to sound trebly or hot or whatever? So I took a quick look at it, took a picture, and what I remember about it is there were 2 ceramic magnets powering this thing as far as magnetics.
Big
but,
long ones or something?
2 kind of the size of DiMarzio, maybe a little smaller.
Okay.
If you ever taken a DiMarzio pickup apart, I'm sorry, folks,
No,
for the
I
people
haven't.
that have never done that, but
I have not done
they're
that.
average size magnets. I'm going to say that they're bar
they're
magnets.
not poles. They're bar magnets.
They are bar
Gotcha.
magnets and some weird diagonally. I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and give you a picture of this thing after the show, and maybe you can post it.
Yeah.
So people can reference this wacky conversation to what I'm talking about, to a visual. So anyway, that's the newest and most interesting thing, which was hours before I left the house to come to this
that's
podcast.
cool.
So
That's got to be exciting that if you're doing kind of not the same old, because I know that you specifically like to work in redoing customs and stuff like that. But
the old stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
When I get something old and what I've never worked on before, it is the highlight of my year. I mean, it's education time. I love it. It's exciting.
That's awesome. So
what's new with you?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Well,
No.
I have been, I've actually had a really busy guitar week. Two things in particular, because I'll save the next one. Well, no, I'll just say all three. Screw it. Real quick. So we got a bunch of pedals from Alchemy Audio, and we are all testing those out. And we're just kind of playing around with those. We got a BYOC Fuzz. We got a Alchemy Audio Dead Bat, which is a battery simulator, a dead battery simulator pedal. We got a Boss Bass Overdrive and a full-size Rat that's been modded like bonkers. So we're having fun playing around with those, and that's for an upcoming episode, I think, potentially next week. And then, let's see, had two shows this week, and
Was that the same show?
yeah, well, I'm just saying it's two shows because
I know.
it was, yeah, you used to play with us. So got to play in both bands, and that was a heck of a lot of fun. It was hot. We were outside though, man. Oh man, it was hot. So that was cool. Playing out, got to play my new amp,
All the
my
new gear.
rig, all my new rattlesnake cables. Thanks, rattlesnake cables. Those I'm digging. I gotta get another one though. But the thing that's been taking up a huge amount of my time, so I haven't been as active posting stuff because I have a really good excuse. Today, I launched the guitarknobs.com website, and a lot of my blood, sweat, and tears has gone into that, making that, and I'm very excited about it. I'm very proud of it, and I hope you guys check it out. We've got a lot of good content on it. We've got all of our podcasts, so you can listen to all the podcasts on the actual site. We've got all for every interview, for every guest that we have on, I've got a special page that it gives each of them a profile, so you can learn more about them after you listen to them, and a bunch of other good stuff on there. So check it out. We're gonna have a newsletter going pretty soon, so we'll do a post about that. But
Where would you find this so-called site?
You might need the Yellow Pages.
Very
still make
classic.
those.
I mean,
They still make
the
them.
internet. Yeah. Do they still make the Yellow
They
Pages?
do. They still do. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I still get one in the mail, but it's like the size of
it's
a
tiny.
magazine.
Way for thin.
Yeah, I remember 30 years ago, and it was 3 inches thick.
Oh yeah. I mean,
kill
that's
somebody with it.
Yeah.
Used to put it under your cabinet, angle it up at you.
You can't save your life with a phone book anymore.
No.
Not at all.
Or hurt somebody with it.
All right.
You could give them a paper cut, I suppose. But anyway, so yeah, that's been I'm very tired from doing that.
You still haven't. Have you said the URL?
The URL is theguitarknobs.com.
Thank you.
You are welcome. So check it out. Would love to hear what you think about it. And ta-da. Okay. Thank you. No, really. No, thank you.
You're the man.
So that said, we have Jared back on today as, like I mentioned, a new knob, resident knob, and he's going to lead our episode today because the episode today is, you clicked on it, so you probably already know what it is, but it's we're going to do a series on each major pickup style. Obviously, there are all kinds of anomalies in just about everything in guitars, but we are going to handle the big ones. Today's episode, is single pickups 101. We're going to do one on humbuckers 101. We're going to do one on P90s. Hold it. I realize that those are single coil, but we're classifying them just differently because it's a whole other bag of chips. And wanted to give those things their own day in the sun. And obviously there's a couple other stragglers that we might do a grab bag 101. Anyways, and the cool thing is Jared knows a whole community of pickup winders out there. So this isn't the exclusive Jared's Pickups deal at all. Before I brought him on, he was very adamant about not making it be like that. The pickup winding community is a solid one. They got a lot of solidarity. And so he's gonna pull in a whole bunch of other winders for us to talk to, and that's gonna be really cool. So we're gonna have a wide range of knowledge passing through here. Anyways, Jared, take it away.
Well, first of all, I am honored now to be a resident knob.
Yay.
Thank you. After a day of winding pickups, it's nice.
You're a big knob, by the way.
I am.
Jared,
I am in most aspects.
Jared is about 7'2". What are you?
He gets taller
6'6",
every episode.
360.
Yeah, something.
Every
not
episode
quite
he gets taller.
You're
360.
a big drink of water, dude.
Yeah, big dude.
Yeah. All right.
That's why
Anyways,
I had 3 pieces of pizza. When we go to the slice, Mikey's Midnight Slice,
and then you go somewhere else that you have second lunch.
yeah, right, for dessert. No, today is a single coil day, and it's going to be hard not to mention P90 because that's a pretty historic pickup. But I'd like to go through a little bit of the history and mention a couple of the first people, and then we'll go into some of the details and what makes the single coil work, what makes the pickup work, and the single coil is the first pickup design.
Yeah,
and a little bit about the the 60 cycle hum that some people can't stand, and then
not the podcast, even though those guys are they're good fellas.
Right. No, they name their podcast after single cycle hum.
Yep.
That a single coil makes. It's basically turns a single coil as an antenna, and it picks up frequency. So, anyway, I want to get into a little of the history, and Rickenbacker horseshoes come to mind. And I know you guys know what Rickenbacker is. It's a guitar brand out there. They had lap steels back in the day, and the horseshoe pickup is their first pickup that they made.
Was that like the old style horseshoe magnets, the ones that are red that have
no, not that.
Like in the cartoons,
kind of, but. There were 2 guys, Paul Borth and George Meacham, that were involved with Adolf Rickenbacker.
Yeah,
and they're one of the earliest notable pioneers of the pickup. And it took around 5 years just to patent the pickup. And so those 2 guys I mentioned, Beecham and Barth. They worked along with with Rickenbacker, and they come up with that design. And like I said, it took them some time to patent it, but they did finally. Epiphone, when it was its own company, they actually paid them royalties to make a pickup similar to that. So other companies, they just...
And they were building these for the pedal steels?
Lap steels.
Or lap steels?
Yeah.
That's where they got started. So.
Yeah, mostly lap steels. And the magnets they used back then were not your everyday magnet that we use today. The magnets were 37% cobalt and
42%
steel.
moxie.
Right. Well, steel.
You've been waiting all day to use that.
have
You know what's interesting as far as metal back in World War II, that really changed the way. It really changed industry, and we all know that because they had the steel pennies and they used all the copper and whatever. So Gibson was making radio equipment for the Army back then, for the government. So that changed their manufacturing when it came to guitars. They had acoustic guitars they made more acoustic guitars in that time, and they didn't. Some of them didn't have truss rod covers and whatnot. So it's crazy, man, how a war back in the day would have somewhat of an impact on the revolution or evolution of guitars during that time period. Because if they had more access to the materials they wanted to use, they would be different today.
Yeah.
But speaking of Gibson, they started out using pickups. They first hired a couple of guys named John and Elvin, and they were from a company in Chicago called Lion and Healy. They were an amp building company, I think, and they had to come up with a design that didn't infringe on the Rickenbackers.
Right, which was still the horseshoe at that point.
With the horseshoe design, but they failed. They just couldn't do it.
Was the horseshoe exposed, or was it like
well, yeah, because you could buy it.
No. But I mean, like, so pickups now,
yes.
It's a
they
square
were
with a cover
exposed.
on
They
it.
were like a. Now I'm not absolutely sure if they actually nickeled the actual horseshoe or not, or what they used, or that's something I'd have to do further research on. But yeah, they were exposed, and when I say horseshoe, I don't. It's a very, it's like a C shape, a rectangle and a C put together, but the C was almost closed.
Right.
And the strings actually ran through the hole, the C part, the open part.
So like almost like a bracelet, like
it.
like an open-ended bracelet.
Right, and the coil was on the bottom there.
Interesting.
So. Yeah, so these other guys couldn't come up with another idea, so Gibson just they haven't had their own employee come up with the bar magnet pickup, and which soon became known as a Charlie Christian. And this guy's name was what was the guy's name? Fuller, and he was the actual inventor of that pickup. Now, when it comes to the patent, if somebody looks up the patent, they think they're going to find the actual inventor. But back in those days, a guy named Hart was the manager of the Gibson factory of that time, and it was common for the general manager to sign off on patents and stuff. So a lot of people will credit him for building that pickup. The bar magnet pickup is known as a Charlie Christian, and if you ever seen one of these in front of you, they're kind of rare. I don't really know if I'm sure there's somebody who's making, like Jason Lawler might be making the actual structure of the Charlie Christian. Now, if you look up Charlie Christian to buy it, you're going to find P90 size pickups, but an actual bar magnet / Charlie Christian. The final design has two all-nickel magnets that were were they all nickel? I don't think they were nickel. I think they were still the
Conofi.
No, not Kunavi. The cobalt and the steel mix. I have to look that up.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a lot to remember here. And there are 2 bars, and the magnet strength was coming out of the shorter ends. So it's hard to explain with words, guys. I'm sorry about that. So if you guys want to go on Google and look up original Charlie Christian pickup, you'll see what I'm talking about.
What that's going on.
Yeah, maybe we'll post a picture or something. But it's a very large pickup. It's very long, but the only exposed part is the P90 size rectangle that pops out of the body. And they first used them on aluminum-bodied lap steel guitars.
Okay.
And they also then they started using them on the arch tops, and that's where Charlie Christian comes in.
Gotcha.
So there were 3 screws on the arch top that controlled the pickup position. And when I say pickup position, I don't mean switching it and having it come out of the bridge, neck, or middle. But you could actually adjust the screws to kind of change the tone because, mind you, these magnets were like, I'm just going to go off in my head from looking in the picture, but at least 3.5 inches long.
Yeah.
They're really long, maybe 4 inches long.
Well, they didn't have to be small because they were buried in the body, right?
They were buried in the body, so that drove the magnetic flux. It was a huge, wide area which the strings were actually being utilized. So that was a really, really cool pickup. And I have people today saying, "Hey man, you should make the actual Charlie Christian pickup." And I'm like, you have no idea what you have to do to get the magnets made and get the parts and blah blah blah. And
you probably only ever make
right,
a couple of them, right?
Well, I haven't made any,
right?
Because I know it goes in. I mostly know what goes into it, but you have to route out your guitar, or you have to defile a jazz guitar,
and that's just really to say, I've got a Charlie.
Look at me, I got a Charlie Christian.
Yeah.
But
so what did that lead up to? What was the next step from Charlie? What's his name again?
Christian.
Charlie Christian. Now we're all going to remember it. Say it 3 times, he'll appear.
Well, eventually they made a really long pickup, and that really long pickup was, I don't know, it was a 4, 5, 6 inches long. It was really long, and it's another visual thing. It's really hard to put in words, but it covered a lot of the string area from the neck to the bridge of the guitar, kind of like a telly, but a lot longer and on a much more slant.
Yeah, that
really didn't go over well. But again, our friend Jason Lawler makes those.
Really?
Yeah, Gibson did, and that's when All Nico was coming around.
Okay.
And back then, in the late 30s, All Nico was aluminum, nickel, cobalt, steel, and iron. It's a little different than what they make today. And All Nico, guys try to figure out what formulas they used back in the old days.
Yeah.
And I got to dig into this a little further, but I'm going to guess that the industry standard was nothing like it is today.
Yeah.
Due to technology and materials to make these magnets.
There's a lot more
really expensive
than those back ones. Yeah.
Yeah, they were more expensive to make back then.
So why was the Alnico a game changer? What made it so much more?
It was a lot more powerful.
Okay.
It was a lot more powerful, so you can
make
structure it right.
Smaller magnets.
Smaller magnets, different structures. It came in bar magnets. It came in poles, and so a lot more pickups were made when All Nico was available. So that's a little history.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it has evolved. It kind of mushroomed, man, with all these different pickup builders back in the old days, they couldn't infringe on, company A's, and then company B came out with a design and they patent that. So that's
Right.
what everybody had to make their own thing.
So had to make them different, almost for the sake of being different at that point.
Right. And they had to make them, desirable too. And you asked me what came after the Charlie Christian, the long pickup, and
Right.
that was undesirable. So you don't see them
Right.
hardly at all. Then they came up with one a little smaller than that. That was a lot like the Telecaster, because the Telecaster was out by then.
Yeah.
And then the P90.
So let's talk about, okay, so cool history.
Right.
That's great. I think we're all smarter for that now. Maybe not Jeff.
Ooh.
But
Who was that guy? Charlie
Christian.
Daniels.
yeah, the Charlie Daniels man. So when we're talking about single pickups, right?
Single coil. Yeah.
Single coil pickups. We were talking about lipstick style,
Right.
telly, a telly neck. Talking about like a middle strat, or really any of the 3 strat pickups, right? Okay. And a telly bridge. Those are, we'll say P90s for a different show.
They sound a lot different because they have a different resonant peak.
Right. But those 3 pickups, for all intent and purpose, pretty much cover the landscape of single coil pickups as we know it today. Fair to say?
What really defines a single coil pickup is that there's only one coil, and that, it's a single cycle. Hello. It's a 60 cycle hum.
Right.
That is what really makes a single coil. And I know you want to separate the P90 from this, and I totally understand why, and that's totally a good way to go.
We can acknowledge that they're single coils, but I want to talk in depth about those because I think that there's at least I feel like there is a wide range.
They're
of
so
sound
different sounding,
Yeah,
Todd.
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, so
I want
right.
to keep. I want to stick with, like, all right. I got three pickups on the table. I got a telly neck. I got a strat middle position, and I got a telly bridge. Right?
Yeah,
So let's talk about which one is first. Why or understand the differences between the 3 and why they are so unique sounding.
Let's start with lipstick pickups.
Let's do that.
Okay. Now, people want to call a telly neck a lipstick pickup.
What people? They're idiots.
Whoa.
What?
Wait, I just said
Because
that.
it looks like it.
Yeah,
because
no.
when it pops out of the thing, you just see a pickguard. It's lipsticky looking.
Yeah.
It looks like a tube, but it's not. The lipstick pickup is a chrome or nickel tube, and it's built a lot differently.
It's very skinny.
They are skinny, but a properly built traditional lipstick pickup is actually a bar magnet, and that bar magnet is pretty much the same size. It's a little shorter, but it's the same size as what you would find in a humbucker. But there's only one coil.
You mean the bar that sits in between the two singles in a humbucker?
That's right.
Okay, gotcha. So if we took the case off of a lipstick pickup,
right.
We'll just say, we can call them lipsticks right now. I mean, we're just saying like a telly style neck pickup, and for all
totally
intent and purpose.
different, man.
What?
It's crazy. So the lipstick is an actual tube, and it's got some feet soldered onto it or whatever. You take one of those apart, and you're going to pull out a coil wrapped around a bar magnet.
Yeah.
Whereas if you took a Telecaster neck and took that apart, and you bent the flaps that are holding that cover on, you pull it up, you would find Alnico pole magnets. 6 of those individual magnets, but in a lipstick pickup, it's a whole
like
bar.
Like on a Den Electro or something.
Right. So you have that whole bar, as a blade.
Now, 4 different kinds.
Oh, there's
of
much
pickups.
more. Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I know that
Let's
there's
keep
more.
it
There's more
basic.
anomalies.
Right,
There's more
right.
anomalies, but let's keep it basic.
So
let's throw that 4th one in there for right now, since that's
sure.
what we're talking about.
So you have your bar magnet lipstick pickup, and to be honest, I really don't have any guitars with those on it, so I don't have a lot of experience playing with lipstick pickups, just because of my own personal preference. And
That's typically a much lower output, right?
it can be.
Okay.
Sure. You want it to be lower because you've got an awful lot of magnetic strength there.
Right.
I mean, it depending on what grade of magnet you have nowadays, and we can get into the different grades later on.
Yeah.
Or whenever and talk about that, but
Maybe I was wrong in saying that it's a lower output, but I'm trying to classify like a down electro sound. Maybe it's a little bit more brittle.
they can be.
Okay.
It all depends. There's so many different variables that
Yeah.
can make it sound that way.
Okay.
But you're going to have different resonant peaks. You're going to have a different sound altogether because of the structure of the pickup itself.
Okay.
The way it's built, the coil of the wire changes your sound. The coil of the wire is going to be wound differently. You're going to have a longer or a shorter depending on the length of the bar magnet in the actual lipstick pickup versus a telly neck pickup is pretty much a standard pole space, and so it's pretty much the same all the time, and the magnet height is always the same.
So we take a cover off a telly neck.
It's
We're
going
going to see,
pretty much like a Strat pickup.
except a lot skinnier.
The distance between the poles are just a little bit closer together.
I don't mean not as wide. I mean like the actual.
Right, not as wide. They're not as wide. It looks like a Strat pickup, except for the poles are exactly flush with the top rather than a Strat, and the magnets are usually they're up and down and which is the same as a bar magnet, but the pole magnets are thicker and they're more concentrated, pointing to the strings, the up and down thing.
And the telly neck?
And a telly neck than a lipstick pickup, because
Okay,
a
gotcha.
lipstick is just a full-on bar
right.
from left to right. It's all magnet.
Okay.
So yeah, I think this answers your question. The bar magnet, the coil is going to be a lot differently shaped because it's wrapped around a bar, and the poles are a lot thicker. So you just have a different sound.
So what is the difference? I mean, because the way that you're talking about it now, it sounds like if we just take the cover off of a telly neck, it's basically almost the same as like a Strat
Pretty much.
style pickup.
Yeah.
But they sound really different.
Do they?
You have a.
I think they do, don't they? I mean, that was like, especially
if you put that same pickup into a telly guitar, it takes on a little bit of the telly tone, right? So
Well, yeah, because you have so many factors.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of physical factors and everything.
Your
but-
body, the wood, and all that kind of thing. Where it is on the telly, on the neck, or whatever. And there's a pickup that Fender makes called Twisted Telly. It's shaped like it's built like a Stratocaster, but you put it in a telly.
Yeah.
To get that, because it is the Stratocaster has it's wider. It's got a wider magnet spread. So it's just shaped a little bit differently,
so
but it's more.
The actual poles on a telly neck pickup are closer together than a
just
than
a
Strat.
tidbit.
Just a tad.
Yeah,
Okay.
just a tad.
All right, that's
Yeah.
cool.
It's got a metallic cover over it, and that probably changes the resonant peak and the
Right.
frequency or whatever. And
So-
some people say they can tell and they can't tell, or that's just an argument for.
Here's a question. So a telly neck pickup, are they as tall? Are they taller than, because like some Strat pickups, I mean, they're pretty shallow. They're right.
Traditionally, they are a little. The winding space is a little more shallow.
Okay, so does that have any effect on the sound? So like if we're saying that a Tele neck pickup is a taller structure, right? So the winds are actually taller than a Strat pickup. Does that affect sound in any way, shape, or form?
Well, let me tell you the main difference. Well, one of the big differences is the wire size used on a Tele neck pickup traditionally. And I'm going to talk traditional vintage here. A Tele neck pickup is wound with 43 gauge wire. And when you have more wire and a thicker wire, you're going to have less resonant peak. You're going to have less highs. And when you have less wire and more resistance, you're going to have a little more highs. And so that's one of the effects that go to the Tele neck pickup compared to a Strat, because Strat is wound with thicker wire. And another reason is the top bobbin piece on a Telecaster pickup is right at the top of the magnets on most of your traditional. Now, the magnets do protrude, but structure has everything to do with tone. So now the Tele, like I said before, because the magnets stop right at the flush, right at the top, so you're going to get those magnets a little bit closer to those.
To the cover?
Yeah, to the cover.
Yeah.
And then you have your cover that could affect the tone of the pickup, depending on the metallic makeup of the cover.
Right. So if you get like a really, really cheap one or something, you might hear some subtle differences between like an older vintage one or something.
Strats from the 50s until like 1974, mid 74, the magnets on a Stratocaster pickup were staggered, and that was to make up for the the arch of the string, the curvature and the string or whatnot.
Yeah.
And so the Tele doesn't have that, the neck anyway. But
so it's pretty flat radius, or not flat, but is a flatter radius neck.
So the Tele neck does sound a little more bright to some people. And what I explained about the wire. Whoa! What?
Background music.
Is that your phone?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm turning it down. And the wire is one of the biggest differences that contributes to the tone between a Strat and a Tele.
Say the wire one more time. So a typical Strat has what wire, and a typical Tele neck has what?
Typical traditional Strat has 42 gauge wire.
Okay.
And the typical Tele neck pickup is 43. And on the 50s, the Tele neck and the Tele bridge are both use a 43. And they changed that to 42 because the 43, it was a little hotter and brighter.
Yeah.
So they used a thicker gauge wire and the same amount of winds, but you're going to get a slightly darker sound out of a thicker wire.
Would you do that? So this comparison between those two I think this is really interesting, and obviously we'll get into the Tele bridge in a second. But the winds, you mentioned the winds. Like, are there? I'm curious as to the difference between the number of the winds. On a typical, if we're talking about like a classic spec.
Yeah. Now, for you guys that have actually looked up specs, there's a general information website. I don't remember the name right away, but man, they have all these specifications put together, and they have a vintage Tele pickup at 9,000 winds of 43 gauge wire.
A Strat pickup?
No, a telly neck.
Telly neck.
Did I say Strat? No, I said telly neck, right? Now the Strat, the average wind on a Strat is around 8,000 winds. So with 8,000 winds, with 42, you get around 5.8 or whatever and that depends on the tension of the wire, and that's another thing we'll get into is magnet wire. And
let's talk about it right now. Tension. Do it.
Well, let's do it, man. So there's two different ways of winding pickup, and that's hand winding / scatter winding, and then machine winding. So the wire that you use, depending on the size, is going to have a lot to do with the output of the pickup, meaning the resistance. Now, 42 gauge at 8,000 winds will, like I said before, get you about 6K. And if you're hand winding, you can control the tension as you're winding, because you're just basically holding the wire in your finger, and it's kind of like if you take a strand of your hair and you pinch the hair and then just kind of bring your,
right,
slide it in your
holding
hair.
it back a little bit.
You kind of get a feeling what it's like, but picture it, picture doing that with the wire going through your fingers really quickly, really fast.
Yeah.
So
when you're saying hand, we're gonna
your hand
real quick.
guiding it onto the coil
And
as it's being wound onto the.
Right.
I'm not saying one pickup or one hand is holding the pickup and the other hand is actually feeding the wire onto the bobbin, holding it and actually going in a circular. No, hand winding is when you have a coil on a machine and it's going at a certain RPM, and one hand is holding that wire and you're hand guiding and you're squeezing that wire at the same time.
And that's where scattering comes in.
That's scatter winding. That's hand winding. And you can pinch and the more you pinch that wire, the more resistance you're going to feel, and you're actually stretching that wire out, and you're going to get more resistance. Now, doing that at random times during windings, that's another anomaly. It creates anomalies, and it might have something to do with the tone. And I called up Seymour Duncan, I don't know, 10 years ago, and we talked about the difference when I was kind of getting into this. And this guy kept using the word mojo. Mojo. You'll get more mojo out of hand winding because it's so different and it's unique and all that kind of thing. Well, yeah, it is. And that's why I actually do hand wind all my pickups, all my single coil pickups that are Stratocaster. So that actually, Fender style, like Telly, Strat, Jazzmaster, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And so you get a lot more mojo. There's more anomalies and more differences and variances when you hand wind. Machine wind is when you set up a machine and it's all automated and it's the same tension and everything is the same.
So
consistent.
you do 10 pickups, you're gonna have 10 almost identical sounding pickups.
Yeah, when you machine wind. When you hand wind, pretty much the same too. If you do it all the time and you basically do the same pattern, and you want to be pretty consistent with your hand winding, because if you have a product and you call it, Brandon single wound, just for an example, the Brandinator.
For an example.
All right, the Brandinator, okay?
Okay.
Which there is no Brandinator, but the Brandinator. You want it to be the same pretty much the same every time, or else you can't. One Brandinator is going to sound different than the other Brandinator. So you don't want to squeeze the crap out of that wire when it's feeding onto that coil, because one single coil pickup is going to read at 5K, and the next one's going to read at like 4K. Just for example. Right.
So just real quick. Oh man, so many questions.
That's the important one then.
What?
That's the important one.
I don't know what that one is. I got too many. So tension. All right. Let's talk about tension real quick. I know that we're technically trying to talk about like the main pickup styles.
Yeah.
But just while we're talking about some of those things that are creating some of these variances, does a tight wind, I can't say that without thinking of the Ramones. Sorry. Thank you, Ramones.
Does it sound a lot different than a loose?
Yeah, like
wound?
why would you want one or the other?
You don't want a totally super tight wind. Number one, that's a lot of tension on a coil on a structure, especially a Fender style single coil with poles.
Okay,
because you'll warp. It tends to warp the top of the bobbin. You drop it, and if any sudden movement like that, impact, it's more likely to break somewhere.
Okay.
Tonal wise, yeah, it's going to sound a little different than a loosely wound coil. You don't want a coil that's way too loose either.
What? Talk about what is the tonal difference between a tight wound pickup, and I don't mean like a too tight wound, but like an acceptably tight wind pickup to an acceptably and noticeably different loose wind.
We're really getting into the. You're going to have a slightly different resonant peak, and
so in playground terms, like, because here's the deal, this could be one of those questions that's like every guitar player knows that you pick. Well, not every guitar
that you
player,
wind a pickup,
but you wind a pickup.
But
it's like, well, what's the difference between one that's wound tight and one that's wound loose? That's a very simple question. That could have a very complex answer.
Yeah, it is a very complex answer. And let me give you a few examples.
Okay.
Instead of me,
Yeah, give us the dumb
giving
version.
you an answer that you're just scratching
From
your
me.
head at. So let's take coil A and coil B, and let's say they don't get wax potted. Or maybe even
oh
they
my
do.
gosh, dude, that's a whole other different thing.
So a really loose coil, you're going to have loose wires, loose coils. Vibrations are going to of these loose windings are going to cause feedback in this pickup.
Okay.
And it's not the good kind, like the Jimi Hendrix kind.
Okay.
It's the kind that pierce through your eardrums, and you just want to run away. A tight coil, you're not going to get as much feedback. It's not probable. But and other things can cause feedback too, depending on how the pickup's built.
Right.
Anything really loose on a pickup structure, like the magnet or anything that could vibrate or anything, is going to cause feedback. So let's talk about loose versus tight wind tension. You have coil A with a loose wound coil. With the same type of wire, and coil B with a really tight one. The coil B is going to have more resistance. Coil A is not, because when you add a lot of tension to wire, it thins out the wire. You have more resistance.
Right. We're not talking about resistance in the electrical audio. Like
we kind of are,
capacitance, that kind of thing. We're talking about actual physical resistance.
Yeah, caused by tension.
Right.
So yeah, there's two little differences between the loose.
So there's a little bit of personality that you might get in there.
Like there's a winder that I know that
squirrelier sounding guitar, maybe.
Well, yeah, some winders like a slightly loose coil because it adds in the dynamics.
Okay.
And what dynamics are, soft, loud, the way you pluck or pick or hold your pick, the way you do this or that.
Yeah.
That contributes to that. And then other builders say it doesn't, but that's really some of this stuff can be arguable too.
Yeah.
So I don't want to.
Well, no, but I totally understand what you're saying, just in the sense that we're talking about things, and I've mentioned this word many times on the show, is that like there's a black art to so much of these things, and black art can just kind of mean either variables. It can mean physical variables, electronic variables, audio variables that we just have to say, okay, awesome, it's hand wound. that's good. You
know?
And
let me tell you too, the most typical things that a lot of players know as far as variances and pickups, number one is output. When a typical guy that knows a little bit enough, or that knows enough to get himself in trouble, thinks about it, he thinks of the output, what grade is the magnet, and what type of wire is on the pickup. So
Cupid's here. Cupid just showed up.
I know. I thought I turned this phone down. So we can even get into the wire too, but I think that's more of a general pickup thing.
That is a general pickup thing. But the wire, I mean, we're talking about all the things that are starting to create some of the differences between these. So
right. So your
touch on the wire real quick.
You're okay. So your typical guy, I didn't even finish that one thought. Your typical guy knows maybe 20% of what actually changes the sound in a pickup.
Right.
So I deal with that every time I deal with a customer that knows enough, and he tells me what he wants. And so it's tough sometimes when he says, man, I want a pickup that reads 10K output that has a all-nickel 5 bar, and I want it to sound like Jimmy Page. It's like, and I got to have the plain enamel wire. Now, let's use that opportunity to go into wire.
Now we're in the wire.
There's different...
when we visited your place, you had a huge rack of
different color wire.
Loads of different wires.
Different type of wire.
Different diameter wire, right?
Yeah. So you have your pickup wire, and you can order this wire with different size jackets or insulation that's around the actual copper.
Okay.
There's thick, there's thin, and I'm just generalizing here. And there's mid and whatever. Typically, we pickup builders use the thinner wire, the thinner insulated wire. I'm sorry, and there were different kinds of insulations that were used in the early days, and those two main insulations were called Formvar, and another one is called plain enamel.
Formvar
is like a deep copper, like a nice deep dark copper color. Excuse me. It's basically, in my opinion, jeez, oh Pete, that darn water cut me off.
Some Pepto.
I can't help it.
All kinds of stuff.
I can't help it. No. Oh, okay. So back to the Formvar. I love it.
It's beautiful wire.
I think it starts out clear, maybe.
We're gonna post up that picture too for this episode. Like, it was really cool. A giant rack of wires.
Right on. So it changes all the time too. So Formvar is. I'd like to say it's a clear, somewhat ambered.
It's like a resin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a resin, and it's actually dripped onto the wire as it's going through the assembly thing. And
is it on the outside of the wire or the inside of the wire?
Outside of the wire, okay, because it insulates the wire. So the early Formvar is a lot darker because they had less. There was more impurities in the chemical makeup or whatever. And the new Formvar today is more of a clear coat around the wire.
Okay.
It's a different color, so it's easy to tell between an actual original wound 50s pickup to a 50s pickup today, but that was rewound with the newer wire. So you could keep yourself from getting, screwed over by some guy trying to make a buck, because the original wound 50s pickups, Fender,
pretty dark brown.
Pretty dark, really dark, like, brownish, coppery. It's beautiful. Yeah. So if you're a pickup guy, you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, plain enamel is more of a purplish type of, and you find that on a lot of Gibson pickups.
Yeah.
Also, Fender use that type of insulation wire on telly and mostly telly, and then they used Formvar on Stratocaster.
Okay.
And you know what? After all these years, I never found out why. Why did they use the Formvar insulation wire on most of their Stratocaster models, and they have always used plain enamel on the telly? So you want to think right away that it's a tonal thing, because the structure of those single coils.
Well, it could be. I mean, was it the telly neck or the telly bridge? Because the telly bridge is exposed, so maybe there's an exposure thing.
Both.
Both.
Even though the wire gauges were different, it was the same. It was the same jacket.
That's your homework then.
What about price of the wire? Because tellies were made to be cheaper guitars originally.
Yeah, that could be a fact, and I'm sure somebody else, another winder out there, probably knows.
After
some super smart vintage guy probably knows this question, but that's a really good question.
Still price.
It's very interesting, and I don't know if the price has something to do with it, because in the CBS era, when CBS bought Fender in '60. They eventually started using plain enamel on both Stratocaster and the telly. And
what?
Yes.
The hell?
Why did they do that? But they did. So the history of
interesting.
It is really interesting, and
it'd be curious to test one against the other, like just a A/B test.
I've done it. I've done a general A/B with my ears, and I can't really tell a huge difference.
I can't imagine that an insulator would have that much to do with it.
It can.
It can.
It's an anomaly in itself.
One was probably toxic.
It is because
and killed
many
people. And
the thickness of the insulation is going to have more of a factor.
We're talking about like microns, right?
Right. But if you hook up your guitar to one of those computery frequency thingy dookies,
right? Which you have one of those at your place, don't you?
Well, of course. How am I going to?
Well, what's it called?
I don't remember. You have something for so long, you don't pay attention what the software is. Right. You just press the thing. I don't know. But anyway, the frequency is going to be a little different. But you got to make sure you have the exact charged, magnet. Everything's got to be the same.
Sure.
If you're going to test one thing to another, there can't be any more variances.
Right.
So
interesting.
It's just all a big mystery, and some people think they have everything nailed down to a T and what things are supposed to sound like, but variances, there's so many variances and so many different.
That's why there's so many different pickups. Imagine, right?
Pickup makers. There's so many different pickups. There's so many different. Let's talk about magnets, man.
Whoa. Okay, hang on. We're gonna have to save, because I know the magnets are vital.
Next time
we'll talk about magnets, because I think magnets actually maybe play a bigger role, arguably.
They are one of the main roles. Yes.
In humbuckers.
Huge role.
Okay. So let's save that for the humbuckers.
I can't wait.
Okay. So now quickly, I just realized there's quite a ring in this room. I never realized that before. We have left out my personal favorite, which is the Telly Bridge. So, all right. Playground Doctor version here. I don't know what that means.
Okay.
Playground Doctor.
Regular Joe.
That doesn't sound good.
Regular Joe. So
the Telly different. The Telly different. That's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
The Telly Bridge. As you guys could tell, man, I stumble words all the time, man. So I'm sorry for that. But the Telly Bridge is different than the other two in itself. Number one, it's got that big old copper plate.
Right.
Not
all of them have that though.
All of the vintage ones do.
Okay.
So, man, it's just automatic for me to go to vintage specification.
Right.
And it's traditional. And if you were to buy a normal, you would have the copper plate for a normal, everyday, traditional Telly thing.
Right.
Pickup. That plate brightens it up. It changes the magnetic flux field and in the direction of that, and because it is magnetic, it does stick to those magnets. So yeah, it does change the magnetic flux strength, which attributes to the tone. The winding it's the pole spread is much wider because it is mounted on an angle on the guitar. It's closer to the bridge itself. You're going to have less oscillation from the strings.
Yep.
And when those strings disrupt the magnetic flux field that's happening around the pickup, the strings need to be made of nickel or other magnetic materials. I had to bring that up too.
Yeah.
The resulting variations are converted through the coil that you have wound there, and it's sent through a weaker signal, which is then sent to the wiring harness, and that wiring harness, depending on what kind of pots you have, there's 250K, 500K,
right.
1 meg. Well, anyway, that's how most pickups work. And I went off on another tangent. I'm sorry about that, but. So the bridge is in a different position of the guitar. It's made a lot differently. It's really bright, and that's what they wanted.
Right.
And that's why they went from.
Is it bright because there's less oscillation and it
that
needs
attributes
to actually
it.
like just
you have a
little harder.
You have a lot more higher frequencies. You have less oscillation. You have a real bright,
the higher output,
real bright sound. That's why your neck pickup, when you have your selector switch down to the bridge and you strum and it's super bright, it's piercing, and then you.
Yeah. I mean, the term ice pick is often associated with that.
Absolutely. You switch to the neck and you have a lot of bass response.
And that's because of the string oscillation.
Right.
Right.
It's much wider, so you have more bass response.
But the bridge is also a higher output than the neck.
It is. And with a larger oscillation, there's
almost not twice, almost twice.
Well,
right?
you have the bigger the oscillation, the bigger whatever is more bass response is going to be louder naturally, and that's why you have a less output. Well, you're supposed to have a less
on
output
the neck.
That's why they used a smaller wire diameter. So, like I said before,
it's all becoming clear now.
Yeah, the thinner the wire, the more resistance. The more turns, lengthen a coil, the less range and higher frequencies. So that's why they use that's why they built the pickups the way they did to, I don't know, to get the sound that they got out of the telly. My brain is about mush here.
Yeah. No,
Sorry about that.
I'm putting you through the ringer, but
I love it.
I think that's a unique thing. That when you look at the telly, you're like, okay, you got the neck pickup, and I feel a little sheepish because I've erroneously called that a lipstick for a long time because
that's common, man.
Okay,
that's
good.
People
I'm
call it that all the time.
But technically, it's not. Really.
Well, because it's a different structure or whatever.
Right,
but
right.
Who really cares?
A true lipstick. Well, but what's inside that is very different from what you told us.
It is very different.
Okay, so let's get back to the telly. You got your neck pickup, lower output, and thinner wire. You got the bridge pickup, which is thicker wire, higher output, the bigger magnets. Right, bigger magnet.
Not really. Actually, they're shorter.
Shorter
in the
magnets.
Position. Yeah,
okay.
The coil is actually shaped a little bit different than the neck. The neck coil. It's a little. The magnets are a little bit taller.
Okay.
Same diameter poles, but like I said, the string.
They're farther apart.
The string.
Okay, gotcha.
Farther apart on the bridge.
Right. So, but then, so think about the sound of a telly, especially in the classic telly sound is the middle position. Using both of those, that's where the classic quack, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you got a Strat which has essentially 3 of the same pickups.
Mind is blown.
Right.
Right.
So
the different
there,
positions.
you're just relying on the position.
Exactly. You still have tons of variables, even though typically if you get out a vintage Strat, if you take pickguard off and you look underneath and you test the pickups, there's some that have the exact same resistance output on each pickup. They're all the same. I mean, they could be identical pickups,
right?
Like scientifically cloned, and it will sound different in every. And that's because of the string oscillation and magnetic flux,
right? And then if you are Jeff, then you've adjusted the pickup height every day.
Yeah, I mean, you just think if you actually had a separate volume control on each pickup on a Stratocaster.
Well, I mean, there's some crazy Japanese ones in the 60s that like did that kind
of
crap.
Well, yeah, because you could change the tone between two pickups just by backing off the volume.
Right.
And if you can even change out your pots from 250 to 500K and to 1 meg.
I did that on accident on an old telly that I had.
Yeah.
I plugged in. I was like, what the?
Yeah, the larger,
a huge difference.
Yeah, the larger K
it was
pot, the brighter
hot.
You're going to get.
Yeah, it was like.
That's why they put 1 megs on the higher output pickups we talked about in the first interview I was in.
Yeah.
To kind of make up for the real bright, shrill sound. Yeah, the wide ranges.
I
like
those pickups, man.
Yes.
I gotta get those in a guitar. Dang. Oh man.
I'm your man. Woo-hoo.
Oh man. There's so many more questions we got, but we are running at capacity. Yes.
I want to say one more thing.
Say it.
Typically in a traditional telly,
yep,
the neck pickup was actually was a little hotter than the bridge.
Really?
And they tried to make up for the brightness with the wire, in other ways, other than just the output. Yeah.
On the older ones?
On the older ones, yeah.
And on the newer ones, it's a lower output.
I don't know. It depends what model you get.
I'm pretty sure.
Well, that goes to show you that output, like when you measure a pickup with your meter for the guys that actually do that.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
That doesn't always determine how louder or how brighter, that's just one little factor.
Sure.
That's it. So don't think that's the end all reason why it's louder.
No,
softer.
but when you are going to buy a new set of pickups, like the first thing listed is the output.
Right. Everybody associates a hot or a weak pickup with output.
Right.
So I just want to put that out there.
Height and position and all that business. Oh my gosh, there's so many things. Okay. Woo. Oh, single pickups 101, single coil pickups 101. There's tons of. Jeff looks like he just got ran over by a truck.
I want to ask a question.
Face. Do it.
Hot pickup, since we're on the subject of hot pickup versus weak pickup. When you are selecting, why would you ever want a hot pickup? Because I would think everybody is going like, oh yeah, I want more. It's got to be hotter. Why would I want a hot pickup versus a weak pickup or vice versa?
Yeah, it's a good question because I don't really like hot pickups all that much. However, you get a hotter pickup because you want more mids. You want more mid-rangey growl. You want more thickness and just, heavy metal.
So a good example, I'm going to interject real quick, right? At one point I decided, I want to see what a different pickup is going to sound like in my telly. I've got a Nashville Deluxe 3 pickup telly. Okay. I decided I'm going to switch out the bridge for the Seymour Duncan quarter pounders.
Oh, good Lord.
And I put it in. I'm like, damn, this sounds like a flipping the humbucker now.
Yeah.
Like that. It was huge difference.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a huge difference that I really wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to think of I guess if someone is playing some like background, like hard blues rhythm on maybe a lighter output amp maybe a smaller amp, that might actually sound really good.
Yeah, they might be accustomed to
It wasn't
feel
for
of
me,
the guitar.
but I mean, those pickups were significantly larger, and it just that's not the sound that I ultimately wanted, and I took them out, but it made a huge impact on it, and it was hotter, it was bigger, it was thicker. I mean, they call it a quarter pounder for a reason. It's like whoa,
Well, 1/4-inch magnets in diameter.
Yeah. Yes.
So
and also quarter pounder.
To put a cap on, the first episode of the single coil, basically you got your single cycle hum, which a lot of people don't like. That's because the pickup's basically mistaken as not mistaken as, but it's a antenna that picks up frequencies.
So for
it
anybody
also
that
does
doesn't know what that is, let's just say that is like when you plug in a telly classically, it's noisy. It just
and an
says
old Fender amp, and
it sounds like it's like an old electronic thing is on.
Some guys love it because you get this true single coil sound,
right?
And you can't have one or the other. And some people just can't stand it,
right? Unless you get like a noise suppressor,
right? Yeah. So you have that. That's what classifies a single coil. There's only one coil, and it's got single. That's a single coil, and the way it sounds, it all depends on what materials you have, how the structure is built. You have your three main components, which is magnets, your coil, and the structure that holds it all together.
Right. It all depends on like 20 different things.
That's your single coil. Yeah.
Interesting.
P90 is a single coil, but let's get into P90s in a different episode because they sound so different.
We'll do that.
Right.
And I still, maybe we can somehow approach this on the Humbucker 101, but I'm so curious about the height of the structure versus each other when you have something that's like a tall structure versus a really, really short structure. And I'm talking about the actual height of the actual bobbin, right?
Yeah.
So like the variances between those, and like, does that have any impact at all?
Absolutely. Changes the resonant peak.
Oh my gosh.
That's all he says.
I know,
peak.
man. Yeah, the resonant peak, it's measured
it's
on
a put on.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Woo. Hey, we gotta stop. I don't know about you. Well, you probably don't know because you've been talking the entire time, which is cool. We thank you for that. But I have more questions now than I did.
Great.
Which is, I guess that's a good thing.
We opened a big ass can,
doing
man.
A service. All right, we're gonna do our top four real quick. Even though it's three, we're just gonna keep calling the top four. I don't care. I'm the boss. I get to do that.
I like it.
So, okay, top four this week is single coil pickup of choice. Okay, scenario example: you have an empty guitar body. You have three pickups. Let's say four pickups on the table. You've got a true lipstick, okay, which we learned about. You've got your telly neck. You got a Strat pickup, and you've got a telly bridge pickup. All right, those are your four choices.
And where are you putting them, and what are you putting them on?
You're putting them in. You're putting them in. Let's say the bridge position. So like the single coil guitar, a one pickup guitar. All right,
it's got to be a single coil in a bridge position. Can I say
you can put it anywhere you want?
Right,
it's an empty guitar.
Going
to. Do whatever you want.
My favorite at this point in my life, it's got to be just a good old Strat pickup in the neck position, single coil, all day long, man. Just a nice traditionally wound neck pickup.
I'm confused by that because you're like you big classic rock humbucker dude. What? We're not talking about.
I make a lot of humbuckers.
That wasn't an option.
Everybody wants those.
That wasn't an option. My bad.
Everybody wants the PAF
I don't know. I
whatever,
don't know that
the
everybody
sparkly
does.
sound. It's
Yeah.
a great pickup. I
Yeah.
love those two.
Okay, so
Different animal, man.
Strat pickup in the neck position.
Well, my top 4 when I was first here was the neck position on a guitar.
Yeah.
On a Strat.
Yeah.
And for the same reason, I'm saying a Strat pickup single coil.
Okay.
Because in the neck position, just a nice, crystal clean, straight through an old Fender tube amp with just a pinch of reverb.
That sound amazing.
Just a pinch of reverb, man. There's so many different ways that you can play. You can play loud, you can play soft.
That's one of those
so many
tones
dynamics.
when people hear, you just hear have 2 or 3 notes and people go, oh.
It's so chimey and
Yeah.
It's recognizable.
Okay.
That's got to be my favorite.
Okay. Good. You're officially done now. Hefe, what are you going with?
I'm in the same place, same direction. I do have a lipstick in a telly, and that's what I'm most used
An
to
actual
playing.
lipstick?
I don't know. Now I got to go figure out what the hell I got in there for sure.
Well, if it's a telly, it's probably not a lipstick. I mean, is that safe to say? That's safe to say.
Now, listen, man, I'm sorry I stomped all over
Dude,
your thoughts of what a lipstick was.
What is a
I
lipstick?
apologize.
I don't
That's
know.
absolutely helpful because I don't want to go around saying, "Oh, check out my lipstick pickup." It's not a lipstick pickup.
I think you're still safe doing that because do you want to be the guy that corrects everybody in the world? Yeah, you don't want to be that guy, right?
Somebody's got to do it.
I'd rather do that actually than sound worse, like saying Exedra or stuff like that. Oh gosh, don't get me started on that.
Yeah, so I don't know what it is on the.
Okay, so
Manipulative.
your telly neck pickup.
Yep,
Okay,
I'll figure out what it is.
I'm going with telly bridge all day long. I freaking love that pickup. I love it. It's got just balls. I love it. Yeah. It's got power. That to me, like when I have that there, that's just like it's power. It's not muscle. It's different. To me, a humbucker's muscle.
It's present. That's what
Yeah.
it is.
It's got a very bitey mid range.
It is.
It's got an attitude.
Cuts
Yeah.
through.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. Ooh-wee. I knew this was going to be a good one, and I am excited for the other two. Brandon, thanks a lot, Jared.
You're welcome.
I eat pizza with this dude like once a week for pizza.
You're welcome, and if anybody thinks that I misled anybody on this info, please let me know.
No, that's a good point. Just a tiny disclaimer here. Like I know when I was earlier researching humbuckers, I mean the history when you're talking about the old stuff back then.
Yeah.
I mean I had 5 different sources saying 5 different things, and I was like, this is crazy.
Who's right?
Who's right? So, hey, you know what? To the best of our knowledge, Jared, what you shared, we're gonna call right. And if it's wrong, then we'll probably hear about it and we can talk about it.
If it's wrong, give me a call. We'll talk about it.
Yeah,
and you could buy some pickups.
10% off.
Whoops.
Oh yeah. Let's mention that really quick.
10% off, everybody.
So on the brand new site,
Are you sure?
At theguitarknobs.com, we at the very top, in the very top right-hand corner, you're going to see a little tiny orange triangle. If you click on that, there is a little deal, and from Brandon, wound pickups, and we'll just give them a holler and check it out. But I also want to make it abundantly clear that we are, this is Jared's introduction show. And we're not going to beat you over the head by Jared's pickups all the time.
Absolutely not. There's a lot of different pickup makers that are just really different than what I do and I specialize in, and I cannot wait to get them on the show.
Yeah. So he was very adamant about that, like I said, and I agreed with him too. But we did want to take this moment to just make a shout out and welcome him to the show and welcome everybody to our new website. And good. Bye.
See ya.
Well, that wraps it up for these knobs. Join us on Facebook on our group at facebook.com/groups/guitar knobs and on Twitter at guitar_knobs. We're also on Instagram at guitar knobs and on our website, theguitarknobs.com.